the other evening when we had the flash flood, 45 mil of rain in 2 hours, and the Gretschweg culvert was being repaired. And as you say, unfortunately, a number of residents said, oh, here we go again. It's slightly different. The main river was under control, and I'm like the other residents. I get paranoid about any rainfall. I go down and have a look at the river levels. But the main river seemed to be okay.
So it's come to be expected almost when you've got inclement weather. It's almost like people expect there's going to be problems there.
Yeah, people worry. People look for sandbags. And actually, while I'm on air, I do have to apologise because I had people saying there was no sandbags put out. But in actual fact, full marks of the Civil Defence, they had got sandbags. It was just that everybody wasn't aware of that. So it boils down to communication. And I think the whole thing is about government communicating with the people what it's doing, and the people communicating back up to the government, you need to look at this aspect of it, or whatever it is. Now, I think the Arup report said everything that the Laxey residents have been saying for years. And there is stuff going on, a lot of stuff going on. But we need it quicker, we need it sooner, and we need the right things to be done.
As you've sort of alluded to there, residents in the area have said, I told you so, really, haven't they? At multiple points over the past few years, and are probably feeling at the end of their tether, I think.
Yeah, there's one or two people, and quite rightly so. There's families that still aren't back in their house. There are families that almost got flooded again. They weren't actually flooded, but the water was in garages and in sheds and lapping at people's doors. And I can understand how they got upset, but that was purely the work that was going on the Gretschweg culvert. Now, there are other areas that need to be addressed. For example, Minorca Hill, down the bottom there is a problem that we need to try and divert the water from going over the bridge. There's Aragon properties behind the Mona Lisa restaurant, the Laxey laundry, and there's two or three houses there, and we've got to really stop the water coming through from there onto the back of them somehow or other. I think there may be some easy fixes if we can get the owners of the property on board, if we can get the DOI working with them, we can probably come up with some easy fixes on that. There is work going on regarding that, and there's a lot of other work going on. The debris catcher, for example, is virtually finished, so hopefully that will stop any logs and detritus coming down from Glenroy, and the banks have been cleared on all the other side apart from the trees opposite Victoria Terrace. Now, that is in the pipeline. I do know that. It's on the list to be done, and hopefully we can keep on target and get this stuff done as soon as possible.
Can you give me an idea of scale of how many people are affected? Do you know how many residents are still out of their homes and how many are still being affected by water damage?
I think there's about 6 or 7 houses that are still unoccupied with builders going in and out. And of course, the COVID virus hasn't helped.
And that's still from October last year.
That's
not
a year ago.
Not
yeah.
from
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the other worry is that people just don't feel safe when you hear any rain or any bad weather forecast. There is a system where you can actually get a warning now. I can't remember the details of it, but I think it's on the government website somewhere where you can get a severe weather warning text through to you or a message, which is helping, and that does help. But nonetheless, Laxey don't sleep in their beds at night comfortably whenever there's any rain.
There's a perception there's nowhere near enough urgency from the several authorities involved to get this resolved quick enough, because ultimately I'm sure there's a recognition from residents the work is ongoing in all sorts of ways to try and address this issue long term, but in the meanwhile they're still being affected every time there's serious weather conditions.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment, but there are things going on, and government isn't good at telling the residents what it's doing. And some of these schemes, you can't just do it on the back of a fag packet. They have to be drawn up properly and put in place with the right, there's no good in doing half a job. It's got to be done properly. There are sort of bunds and catchment things planned for farther up the valley. DEFRA's doing its stuff with trying to reduce the water flow coming down with trees, sphagnum moss, and we had the peat cutting has been banned, so we're trying to regenerate some of the peat bogs. So there is a concerted effort.
And that's important, of course, because that would hold water higher up, wouldn't it? That's part of the point of the peat bogs, right?
Yep, absolutely. And I think the fact that Minister Baker is actually Minister of DOI and also in charge of the Manx utilities, his name's in the frame, and I think it's fair to say that both organisations are working much closely together.
politically, this needs to be resolved, doesn't it? Partly because we've got just over a year left of the administration. I think people want heads to roll still.
I think things have moved on since then. We've got to make sure it's right. We've got to make sure that ongoing maintenance, for me, is the key to it. Just even the main road culverts and other culverts around and about Baldoon Road culverts, they're all kept clear and maintained. And I think that's a very key aspect of it. Trees going into the river, we need to make sure that river banks are kept clear, that the maintenance is being done properly there. And we need to have a hotline that the residents can phone through. And if they see a problem developing, it is acted upon.
We haven't even come to talk about property prices or insurance. The implications for people are pretty widespread, actually.
Yeah, the people that can't get insurance, your heart goes out to them. Daphne Kane and I had a meeting with a local insurance company last week, and they are looking at it. But of course, they're commercial enterprises, and they cannot back something that will not yield a profit. So to take out insurance on somewhere that has a flood risk, it's very high in premium. But if we can get the insurance companies as part of the Reshore scheme that's in the UK, that would be brilliant. But the problem is we're not part of the UK, so it's going to be involving a change in UK law. And I know the Treasury Minister has been chasing up the UK to try and see if we can get something done. But of course, changing a law in the UK is a slow process.